Hello, I'm George Judson, and my product is the bow restrictor. So to begin, I began playing the cello in 4th grade, and I have participated in multiple regional orchestras, and I am currently the principal cellist in the Youth Orchestra San Antonio's Concertino Strings, and I'm also part of the high school orchestra. Playing the cello and being in an orchestra, I have seen a universal problem among all orchestral players of all age groups. So the problem that I'm trying to address is that orchestral players, when they're playing, they have a tendency to allow their bow, this wooden thing, to move up the fingerboard, thus creating a harsh and distorted tone, and it actually takes away from the acoustic beauty of the instrument. So I stress the universal aspect of this problem because it is present within all age groups and all orchestral groups. So as you can see in elementary school, this problem is already occurring in multiple children. And then here we have in middle school, the 2nd, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th chair cellos, and even some violas and some of the basses are experiencing this problem. And then here we have in high school, these two women are demonstrating this issue. So the solution to this problem is the bow restrictor. And I would like to demonstrate what I mean and what the problem actually does to the acoustic beauty of the instrument by playing you guys a short little G major arpeggio. So if I can just set this up real quick. Hopefully this thing doesn't get crunched. So the proper place to have your bow is right here in between the bridge and the finger bow, creating a powerful and concise sound. So it's and then the issue is that we have is the bow comes up to here, creating a gross sound. So as you can see, there is a legitimate audible difference between the two. Oh, and then here's where my product comes into play. Is the bow restrictor actually does two things. It stops the bow from moving up past the fingerboard. It stops the bow from moving up the fingerboard, but at the same time trains the mind and the muscles to memorize not to go any farther. And you end up actually just learning how to play right here. Let's get this set up. So my financial model with the cost of goods sold, if I go based off of the prototype model that I have there, the cost of goods sold would be about $1.02, and I would be selling my product for $10.95, giving me a 90.6% gross margin. My total gross profit over a 3-year summary is $436,322, and that is actually without an annual growth rate. And then the market. I have a pretty large market. My total addressable market is around 3,628,610 orchestral players ages 8 to 18 in the US. And then my serviceable addressable market is around 16,728 orchestral players 8 to 18 just in the city of San Antonio. So who am I trying to reach? Well, due to a predictable location, which is schools and music stores, my 3 main customers are going to be the kids, the parents, and the teachers. The predictable location is, of course, the schools and the music stores because those 2 locations are where the parents need to meet, or the music stores is where the instruments are going to be bought, the music is going to be bought, or tools for the instruments are going to be bought. This is also where teachers go to buy their music, maybe get something for their instrument, and then the teachers, or the parents, if they're needing to rent an instrument. And then, of course, the schools because, well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then they all intersect, of course, in the schools and music shops. So my marketing plan is first, to get a celebrity endorsement. I do actually know the principal cellist of the San Antonio Symphony, so in hopes that he would endorse my product, that would be fantastic. Of course, a website, an e-commerce website. though I am waiting to secure my IP, a website would really help bring my product out to the public, out on the web, giving me a lot more options for sales. And then, of course, in social media, an Instagram account is already up and running, but I would like to move further towards a Twitter and a Facebook account. And then a paid search through Google, having keywords, the pay per click on Google, whereas if somebody looks up the issue that they're having with regards to playing their instrument, or they look at bow restrictor, that my product hopefully pops up first. And then, of course, public relations. This is a really big one. Having public relations with music stores and schools would be a huge, considering that those are my two customers, my two huge customers, and that the music stores can buy my product in bulk, thus selling them to the parents, kids, and teachers, and then even the schools, being able for them to buy my product in bulk for all of the kids in their orchestra. And then, of course, the conventions. Specifically, TMEA, the Texas Music Educators Association, they have a convention a couple times a year where they allow people to come and showcase their own products or maybe their own skills and talents involving a musical instrument. So these are my two competitors. There's actually numerous issues with my two competitors. One being, and it's kind of my personal opinion, they don't really look good. The second issue is both of these models have to wrap around the instrument in order to function. A huge problem with that is that a lot of nicer instruments are made with more of a brittle wood, allowing the instrument to provide a better acoustic. And so having something that wraps around your instrument that could possibly damage it is not very... it doesn't help in wanting for me to buy it, at least. Another issue is that though it does stop the bow from moving up the fingerboard, there is two lanes right here that stop the bow from moving down. And so whenever you are playing a more difficult piece and you are moving down the fingerboard, you need to move your bow down with your fingers. What this product does is it stops that from happening. And then the fourth issue is that both of these products cost around $40 to $30. So in an educational standpoint, buying something that costs around $30 or $40 probably wouldn't be that appealing, especially in providing them for a large amount of students. So planning on testing my risky assumption. So my risky assumption, or what I believe, is that my product being bought universally. So I have tested that by conducting multiple product interviews or solution interviews, specifically with multiple strings teachers, with people in the San Antonio Symphony. And through my responses, I have received insight that this problem occurs in all instruments and really in all age groups. Specifically, one person I talked to said that his youngest in private lessons was 8 years old and his oldest was 28. And between those two age groups, this problem occurred in all of the ages. So my MVP funds, I'm requesting all $500. This is going towards three main things. My engineering services, specifically through Elevate Systems, what they're going to help me do is create a hard 3D model of my product through 3D printing. What this is going to allow me to do is really hone in on the materials I'm going to use for my product, allowing me to make a cost-effective but also good product. And then there goes the patent fees. Securing my intellectual property is a really big step in forwarding my business. What this will allow me to do is not only advance in formulating a website and putting my product out to the public, but it will allow me to just get my model down, get my materials down, and start manufacturing. And then comes travel costs, for example, through showcasing, but also through talking to schools, talking to the teachers at the schools, and even talking to the music stores and seeing if they are willing to buy my product in hopes that my product will better the orchestral players that are coming in their stores. So I thank you for coming out today. I thank you for your time and your consideration, and I hope that you will help me help the world sound better. Thank you.
Really nice job.
Yeah, that was really great.
Great job.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Can you talk a little more about the competitive, how prevalent is the use of those competitive products, and is there any bias against it? Like I would think, teachers, is there a purist thing out there that want you using things?
So basically, when I was doing research on my competitors, the only thing that I found it wasn't a very prevalent thing. It was actually kind of hard for me to find this. But
sort of like Alamo Heights doesn't use those?
No, I have actually never seen anybody use these. But in order to find competitors, I actually did some hard research in order to find this. But it's just called a bow corrector. And yeah, so this model for the cello is $40 and this one's like $35. They're both pretty expensive. And I believe that both of their ratings were only like 3 stars, and both saying that they were just really big and bulky and expensive. So.
But is there, and do you think there's any, my concern would be instructors like, I don't want them using things that shortcut the natural learning process. But I don't know, I don't play the musician.
Well, a huge issue, or the reason why my problem, or the problem is so prevalent within all age groups or all orchestral groups, is because it's a natural tendency. Placing your bow too far up the fingerboard it's actually like a more comfortable position when you're first learning. And you don't really notice it, especially if you're playing with like 40 other people. So it actually kind of doles out the sound that you're making when a lot of other people are playing around you. But in hindsight, when everybody is playing together and they're all having that issue, an individual person might not be able to hear it, but someone in the audience might be able to hear it as like a collective. So that is the issue, is that it's mostly just a natural tendency. And being able to stop that and train your arms and your brain to stop that problem from occurring would be monumental in making an orchestra sound better.
Yeah, so you said it well earlier, I think, in terms of not only does it help you stop immediately doing it, but it also starts to teach you not to do that in the first place, because you may not be hearing it, but you're feeling yourself bump up against that thing, and you start to realize where you're supposed to be. So I do have a question about the product. Would you need a different size or for a viola and a violin and a cello and a bass?
So I've tried to create that through this product, but it is a little bit hard considering I use pencils and pen caps. But I want this to be able to adjust. So go up and down just like this. So if there's like a smaller instrument, they can actually be able to pull it up or down. Or if it's like a larger instrument, they'd be able to extend both the vertical and horizontal lengths. So I'm trying to keep it basically a universal, like one product that can fit all sizes. There might need to be a different one just for violins and violas, or just cellos and basses, considering that the difference between a bass and a violin is actually pretty big. But I do want the product to be able to adjust. Also, considering that where you want this to stop is before the fingerboard, and a lot of distances, even in cellos, might vary. So you will need to adjust either way, even if it's just on one instrument or one type of instrument.
So almost, if this really became ubiquitous, what you're saying, this would then only be used, say, when beginners would use this, because then their brain would be trained and they really wouldn't need it anymore.
Well,
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah. So I began using that product. It was like a little idea that one of my teachers had, but it was just to stick something in your end pin or in your F hole right here to stop your bow from moving up. And I used that when I was in like 8th grade. And so now that I'm actually conscious of what's happening and when I'm playing, I can see. But that doesn't go to say that if you're using it when you're young, that problem might reoccur when you get older. So like I said before, the issue does happen in all age groups, and from my solution interviews, 8 to 28, even like the older you get, you might not even notice that it's happening. So it is important. It's just something that trains your arm, and if it occurs again, you just put it on and you just play, you just practice, and the problem is being fixed without you even knowing it.
So I had a question. I think it's a great idea, And I agree that especially that is not pleasing to the eye at all. And I could see what you're talking about. Makes sense that you've just got the top. Your price point, or for your cost, you're estimating $1.02, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just be careful about that because, again, to your point, I mean, that seems low. If you want it to be, I mean, pleasing to the eye, you obviously want it to blend in like black and maybe the brown, just whatever you do it, because I think that, so this price point may come up a little bit. But, and again, a 90% margin, wow, that'd be great. But I would just, I think the fact that it's very, from a sales perspective, because again, going to schools, you're going to sell this sell this in bulk. And I think it's a great price point, but it'll be interesting to see what the true cost comes out. But I think you're right on who you're marketing it to as well. The schools and the music stores. It makes perfect sense. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea.
Has Angus McLeod given any feedback?
I haven't actually talked to Mr. McLeod, but I have talked to one of the strings teachers at our high school. His name is Mr. Gallego. He plays the cello. He actually helped me with part of the design on my product. He thinks it's a great idea because he sees the problem himself, even when he's teaching. But at the same time, he is a private teacher and he sees it himself, and he would love something to actually fix that issue. And then I did talk to the director for my orchestra outside of school in Yosa is Kenneth Frodigman. He's the principal cellist in the San Antonio Symphony. And so I talked to him about this as well. And he said he was actually the problem interview that said his youngest is 8 years old and his oldest is 28, and he sees it in everybody. And even when I'm in orchestra myself, I can see people across the room having this issue.
Good.
So I thought you had a great presentation, and you articulated it well. My only critical feedback to you would be that on that costing on your MVP, what you're asking for, it's not specific. Like I'd love to see this engineering is going to cost this amount of money. This marketing is going to cost this amount. You just asked for $500 and said it's going to go to these 3 things. We would like to see the breakdown of that.
And then lastly, just from a, the clamp, it looked like it's pretty close to everything else that's vibrating. Is it going to create any issues with that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mess with any of the sound. Another issue is if the clamp was like to wobble based off the vibrations and fall off, but there's actually like a rubber reinforcement inside of the clamp that helps it stick, and there is actually no repercussions to sound when you have something that clips on like that.
Another thought, I mean, this is specifically a product, right? And thinking longer term from a business perspective, I think you should keep in mind that, and we've talked to a lot of teams about this, think about it longer term, and are there other instruments that, where you make it more of a business around these types of tools that can help train in problem areas amongst other instruments. So just a thought.
Well-
It reminds me of golf and all the stuff that's built around.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know if that's.
And that'll grow, I mean,
Well, to add to what you're saying, this is only Judson Co, and one of my products is the bow restrictor. So I was having another idea that this thing is called a rock stop, and these things are really difficult because this rubber wears out within like a year. So whenever you're playing your instrument or you're in like a solo and ensemble competition, this will slide, and it's just really annoying. You have to pick your cello back up, and it's just awful. So if I could create or design something that is like the perfect rock stop,
like
it would just be, like a suction cup or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be thinking broader for, this is a product, but think business and those types of things. I think that would be great. But great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.